Welcome to Strictly Ball Business. Alec here with Dalton. We're ready to chat about some of our favorite parts about the league is young players getting better, and we're giving out our predictions on who has the best young core in the league and who we think is going to turn into some stars going past that. Along with that, we're going to give our top 10 for both West and East coming into this next season. Lots of shake-up potential. There's some really good teams that missed the playoffs, and we're going to see where we think they're going to land. So first off, Dalton, what do you think, man? You want to get into the young core here? Who is your young core, man?
So my favorite young core right now, now this is solely off young core, not team success, is the Sacramento Kings. I'm going to talk about 5 of their young players that I consider in their young core, and we're considering 24 younger as the young core, and that's De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton, Davion Mitchell, Marvin Bagley, and Terrence Davis. So they're all the young core, but I'll start with Fox. I mean, I know who did I say was the most underrated player in the league? Drew Holiday. De'Aaron Fox. After doing all this research, I'm like, yeah, this guy's the most underrated player in the league. He's 23. Last season alone. 25 points per game, 7.2 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.8 three-pointers made off 32%. Obviously, that could be better, but still, 25 points per game, that's crazy. And the notable thing is he's the only one on a big contract this season. He's making $28 million, and it increases about $2 million for a 5-year contract. Like, that's actually that's a really good position for the Kings to be in.
And everyone would argue he deserves that contract. Like, he's definitely a very good player.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that when a player that's not an all-star gets that contract, everyone's like, yeah, all right, cool. They're like, yep, no argument.
Makes sense.
But he's the fastest player in the NBA. Like, that's for sure now that John Wall's a zombie.
Yep.
But breaking down what he does, so like a lot of guys, he's the master of pick and roll. He doesn't just find the roller as in a simple, the basic pick and roll, but he's tossing lobs. He's aware of the wings, which is very valuable, especially with Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton, who are really good 3-point shooters. He can hit it to the wing. He can hit it to the corner. He finds all of it. He's able to manipulate the pick and roll in any way he wants.
Yeah, he's a smart player. Very good passer, and just as fast as he is with his legs, he has fast passes into the paint as well. So with the Kings, it's kind of like got to find that big guy.
Yeah, he's a very smart player, especially at 23. If this is the guy you're going to build around, which he's a guy you can build around. I don't think he'll be the number 1 on a championship team, but he could mold into a number 2. You could definitely do that. And he could make the jump to number 1. We'll see. We'll see in the future. He's definitely got the potential to. But
yeah, I mean, just given where the league's at, I could see him becoming a top 5 point guard at some point.
Oh yeah, for sure. And not only creating space, but he's able to find players, filling the gaps in the defense. So when he's driving, he knows exactly where everyone is. He can hit that extra pass. He's not just driving in there to score. He's driving in there to create space that way, and that's awesome. And
he's methodical.
Yeah, extremely. Except for, so he doesn't always have a plan when he goes down. A lot of times he'll get trapped in and he'll try to force up a bad layup, and that brings up one of my points about him not having. He's the 36th most blocked player in the NBA. 8.6% of his shots get blocked, which is actually a crazy amount. I mean, he still shoots 48%. So, even though he's getting blocked 8.6% of the time, he still has that's ideal efficiency for a guard, I would say, is 48%. But,
yeah. No, I mean, that's very solid for a guard, I feel like.
And he does still need to work on his accuracy, but it's getting better every year. It's not a huge hole in his game. But so just like the Knicks had this playoffs, another issue he has is he always goes left, he can't go right, which you're finding as a huge hole. Like, defenses are just built around that now. Like, the Knicks were really exposed about that, and that's what they tried to do with Harden, even though he's super ambidextrous. What was it, 2 years ago? That was like the Bucks' plan, is force him left. No, force him right, because Harden's left-handed. And eventually he figured it out because he's a Hall of Fame player. But it's a real scheme that NBA players will run now. But yeah, he's very unpolished. Super easy to guard when he goes to the right. That's a lot of times that's where he gets blocked. And but in guards under 6'6", he has the fourth best in efficiency on drives. Fourth best guards under 6'6". That's awesome. It's because of his speed. He can get in front of them super fast. But not only, he's super athletic. He can get up, jump up. He's the smarter moves. He's got a whole arsenal of moves when he gets down there. So that's what really is good for him. But my last thing on De'Aaron Fox is so his defense, his on-ball defense, it's good. It's what you want. But he overcommits to his team defense. It's hard for him to stay engaged on one, like, off-ball. If they don't have the ball, off-ball movement, he'll lose them. He just doesn't pay attention as fast. He'll trail defenders because he's not paying attention, so they'll get that extra step. And in the NBA, that's all she wrote. If they get that extra step. But definitely he's improving on that end. But at the same time, when you're scoring 25 points per game, you can only put in so much effort towards defense, right? Your primary defender can't be your primary scorer. So,
definitely not.
My next guy is Tyrese Halliburton. He's 21. He had a great rookie season, 13 points per game, 5.3 assists. I'll get to all their assists soon, too. 1.3 steals, 40% from 3 on 2.1. He's 6'5". So I imagine, especially if Davion Mitchell turns into the guy they want him to turn into and Buddy Hield gets a good trade somewhere else, I think he could be their 3, a smaller 3, but a small ball 3, definitely. I think that could work with his defense. They still need an interior presence. I think that would really help them out. But he's a great compliment for De'Aaron Fox. Mm-hmm. He can take the ball out of De'Aaron's hands, so he can make his own plays, and so he's not the only facilitator. He can run off ball. He's, like I just said, he can defend perimeter super well, and I see him turning into a really good, not Drew Holiday but like Kyle Lowry defense. Like, he's going to come out there and play defense for you. He's going to do what he needs to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Halliburton. The only thing about him is, like, this jump shot is so weird, and people weren't sure if that was going to translate well to the NBA. Obviously, he's making shots, so, no one's going to question it as long as he's making them,
his
right?
Free throws were in the 70s. That's fine. That's what I expect out of a rookie. So, I mean, it's working. Mm-hmm. And he played the whole season, I think. I didn't look up his games, and once Buddy's gone, he'll finally take over a starting role. Mm-hmm. I think he actually was starting over Buddy, but I think
I'm pretty sure he was.
That much more possessions. He'll really blossom as their second best young player.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that happening, no doubt. I mean, I've got him on my fantasy team, and so as a biased man, I'm all on the Halliburton train.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the direction they should go over Buddy Hield. Obviously, Buddy Hield's not their small forward because Buddy Hield can't play defense, can't or won't, whatever. Pick one.
Well, they have Harrison Barnes for that. He's nice right now. Yeah. They're probably going to have to get a new small forward at some point, but I kind of like him for the Kings for now.
So Davion Mitchell, 22, the guy they just drafted. So his summer league stats is what I got here. That we're going off of the 2 games he's played. 11 points per game, 6.5 assists, 3.5 fouls, but 40% from 3, 57% from the field. He's a 6'2" guard. I see him as their shooting guard, if not a 6-man, if they move Tyrese to the 2 and run him off. But great perimeter defender, probably the best defender out of all 5 of the guys I'm going to mention. He can hit up from outside efficiently. He's a perfect role for building around a player if you're not trying to get that player. Like the Magic are trying to find that player right now. Kings have it. De'Aaron Fox, and now they're just trying to fit guys around him, and I think he's a perfect fit in the system they're trying to create around him. They have him for 4 more years on a rookie deal. I said that. I just mentioned that. Yeah, shooting guards where ideally 6'2". He can't really play anything else. He could be your point guard off the bench. I'd like to see him a starter. I'd like to see them, assuming they get someone to hold down the middle that not Rashad Holmes, that's a threat in the paint. I think they could run a 3-man with Tyrese, Davion, and De'Aaron Fox. But also, it's really going to help him out because he doesn't have to be stressed. You got 2 other guys who can make plays. Like, how many... These first 3 guys, 6.5 assists, 5.3 assists, 7.2 assists. These guys are all playmakers, and they can shoot. I think that's... Like, we've never seen that many guys on a team that can just... Everyone can pass. Everyone can make the play. Everyone can make... Like, I'm super interested to see how well their offense can go in that because all of them have been point guards, and they are all different sizes, and they can guard different sizes. Well, 2 of them anyway. They can guard different positions. So that'll be really cool to see in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Facilitating-wise, there's a lot of potential. The only question that I have is Davion Mitchell didn't seem super excited to get picked by the Kings because, like you said, they've already got Fox and Halliburton. He wanted to maybe go to a spot where he thought he'd be starting right away. But, hey, I mean, from the Kings' perspective, they were just taking who they thought was the best player overall there. So hard to blame them there. Davion Mitchell, I think, has a ton of potential in this league as a ball handler and a guy who can drive to the rim at any point. And the whole point of the NBA and playing basketball is you need guys who can get you buckets. And this guy can get buckets, no problem. He's is he 23 or 24?
22.
He's one of the two,
22.
right? He's 22. Okay, my bad. Yeah, so he's 22, about as old as you can be, graduating college in 4 years. And hopefully with that, he's more NBA ready. He had a good 3-point shot in college, shooting over 40%. And, I loved him in the tournament. He helped get Baylor to be the team that they were at that point.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to try not to spend too much time on Marvin Bagley. I do have some pluses here for him, but I don't think the Kings is his final destination. I think he could turn out to be a solid player, a solid starting player in the right system. It's just not with the Kings, not with what they've already set up with De'Aaron and Tyrese. Bagley's 22, 14.1 points per game last year, 7.4 rebounds, 2.5 offensive rebounds, which is probably his best trait, if not. I mean, from a league perspective, the guy can go out there and get 2.5 offensive rebounds as a power forward is great. 50% from the field, 34% from 3. So he had a really tough sophomore year this year. A sophomore? No, this is 3rd year. Starting off, but he turned his efficiency around and got out there. But he's not enough of a shooter to justify standing out and hanging out and clearing space for De'Aaron Fox. But I mean, he can hit it. It's just we haven't seen any improvement in his offensive end over these last 3 years. Shooting's been the same. Points per game have been the same. His rebounds have gotten better. Clearly Rashad Holmes did affect that once they got him because he was a way better rebounder than Willie Cauley-Stein, who was the center before. So he did go back in there, but he is uber athletic. He can defend. He's just not a smart defender. He's got all the tools, just like Wiggins was, and we've shown that Wiggins in the right situation, he'll go out and defend. He'll do a really good job. So it's just a different environment, I think, will help him. So he is a really good mid-range player, and he's transitioning into the type of big you want to have, like Bam Adebayo can hit some mid-range. He's starting to hit more mid-range shots, maybe if he's not an all-out 3, and that's what keeps you valuable. Unlike Andre Drummond, who's just kind of just a guy. He's just a tall guy. But he's more of the modern 4. He's really diverse down low. He's got he can catch lobs. He's got hooks. He's got a really good post game, but in the modern NBA, that doesn't work as fast. Super fast for a 4. He can run the floor super fast. 4.5 seconds running the floor was like his average in an NBA game. He can get contact. He just can't hit free throws at 54%. So it's nice to see that he can get all that contact. He was one of the better at getting contact for 4s and 5s in the league, but he just can't finish. It's not a smart passer. He hasn't shown that much willingness to pass. And this is his last year on the rookie contract. So I think they were going to look to trade him. I think that would be the smart idea. I think actually what would help them out is swapping for Bamba and some change. I think that would help out them a lot. I think that'll give them that starting center that can protect the paint. Mo Bamba's in the limited time he's shown, he can show that he can protect the paint. He still has to get smarter as a defender, but I think he's a great fit for them. And the Bagley gets to go where he can have all the offense he wants with the Magic. Like all they have is defense, and they have a good defensive system still carrying over. We'll see if it stays with Mosley, but we'll see. And lastly,
I think that would be a good fit for him. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a good trade to me, especially getting Mo Bamba over on the Kings. I want him out of Orlando because they've wasted his time there. I would love to see him maybe get some minutes with the Kings and have, like you said, 3 guys maybe throw some lobs to him.
Yeah. And
that could be fun.
Definitely, Bamba's a solid 3-point shooter, especially for a center. I think he also hit it 34% from 3, but he was off the bench throwing up these forced threes because he barely got any touches. I think give him a starting center, he's going to get more patient, and he's going to be able to put those up more.
Yeah.
Plus, he's been in the gym.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, he's bound to be pressing in his, third season, what it was, and he gets limited minutes,
Right.
It is what it is. Bad shots, you can expect that. Guys haven't put him in the right position to succeed, in my opinion.
Last guy is Terrence Davis. He's 24, 11 points per game. They got him in that was it a 3-team deal for the Raptors, or did they just they just got Terrence Davis. The Raptors just gave him up because they didn't want to pay him. 11 points per game, 1 steal, 37% from 3. He takes good shots, smart combo guard. He fits on the team, but at the same time, you got 2 other guards that do the same thing. Like, is this really the guy you want to put that money towards? I think he fits the team well, but they have better options. He's decent catch and shoot, aggressive at attacking. He can make those secondary plays. Again, they have Davion Mitchell now, and they have Tyrese Halliburton. He's a pretty good defensive player. Sometimes he cares too much, and it affects him on the offensive end. He just like De'Aaron Fox, he commits. He's able to recover better, but they have better options. And I don't think he's a bad player, not by any means. I just think there's a better role for him somewhere else. So I think they got a lot of moves.
Yeah.
But those are the 5 I think are. All of them combined is a solid future for them. Kings just have to make some moves and put some guys around them to fit a system that they're creating.
Yeah, no, I like what they got over there. It's probably the most excited you can be as a Kings fan for the first time, in a while. But I'm sure Kings fans would be saying, hey, every time we get ourselves excited, it doesn't turn out to be anything anyways, because is it either 14 or 15 years now they haven't made the playoffs? I mean, it's pretty egregious. So hopefully they can get over that hump here soon. I would love for them to do that. And, I don't know if it's going to be this year, to be honest, but maybe in the near future is a possibility.
15 years.
15, yeah. 15 years is tough. I mean, the Timberwolves were getting there, but they got that off their back a couple of years ago. It felt good. I went to a playoff game, and I had the time of my life. I know you went to the playoff game beforehand where they lost, so
still crazy.
A little bit different
Still
emotions. Awesome. Still awesome. Just great to have the full stadium and people rocking and knowing you have a good team. I mean, that was the first time in a long time that I saw the Timberwolves really have a legitimate team. We were the 3 seed for a while until Butler got hurt, and then things kind of fell apart. But I hope that the Kings can experience some of that. At least some joy in their fandom here in the near future.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, you still talking? You got anything else to say on the Sacramento Kings?
20 minutes about the Sacramento Kings. That was for you, Sacramento. Nobody else this whole offseason has talked about the Kings that long, so you're welcome.
Fair enough. Well, we'll get on to my best young core. I feel is the Memphis Grizzlies. A reason I feel this way is because they finished 9th last season with a 38-34 record. They beat the Warriors in that last game. We all saw it. It was a nail biter. Ja Morant, did he have like 38 or something?
He was up there.
Yeah, he was amazing. And this is a guy who I doubted coming into the league because he's so skinny, and I thought him going up high for the dunks and athletic plays that he makes, that it was bound to cause an injury, sooner rather than later. But after 2 years, with minor injuries, he's looked amazing. He's on an all-star trajectory. He averaged 17.8 points his first year and upped that to 19.1 in the second year. Realistically, he can probably get it to 21 or 22 this year, especially with some of the moves they made. Now, I wasn't very excited what they did in terms of getting rid of Valanciunas, but they did so, and bringing in Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe, but they did so in order to get Zaire Williams, who's another guy on this young core. But along with Ja Morant, they have a lot of other great players, but I want to dig a little bit more into him right now. Like I said, 19.1 points in his second year, and he's probably going to up that to 21 or in this next season. He's had 7 assists, about 7.5 each of the first 2 years, and 4 rebounds. This is a guy who is trying to make the plays for his team all the time, and he consistently makes them without making a whole lot of mistakes, as his turnovers per game were around 3 per game, which is hopefully going to decrease more to like 2.5, hopefully in the near future. But I like who he is as a dynamic player, and I think that if he can just play it a little safer, that they're going to go really far in the playoffs, especially just given what he's been able to do for them thus far. 3-point shooting leaves a lot to be desired, as he only shot 30% last year and 33% in his rookie year. I'm really looking for him to up that at some point. His shot really doesn't look bad. It doesn't have a hitch or anything in there. It's just really, I think it's going to be a matter of taking more, and then you'll be making more, hopefully at some point, especially practicing them enough. He upped it from 3 attempts his first season to 4 attempts his second season, so see that probably go to 5 attempts this year. In terms of shooting efficiently, he shot 47% his first year and 45% his last year. So a little dip, and we want to go a little bit back to that 47%. But again, as young as he is, being a point guard and so ball dominant, those are really solid numbers already, and I'm not worried about it, as I'm thinking the 3-point shot being as low as it is the reason it's going down. So I think this guy's going to continue to get better. He's had over 50 steals each of his first 2 years. He's an active guy on defense, and in transition, there's not many other guys I'd rather have. He's very fast, he's very crafty, and he can get around guys that are twice his size because it doesn't matter. He's a baller, and he's better than half the guys out there. So in terms of Ja Morant, we all know he's amazing. It's not, much to debate there, obviously. There's other guys on this team too I like a lot. Ja Morant's only 22 years old. You've got another guy in Jaren Jackson who's only 21 years old, and he is a better 3-point shooter and one of the better ones on the team. He's had that in close to 40% before. Hopefully he can get it back to that point. He kind of had a tough season in terms of shooting there last year, but he is a guy who's averaged 14 points a game before, and he gets rebounds, getting 5.6 a game, almost 2 offensive boards a game, and he gets a little bit active on offense, getting 1.5 blocks a game as well, or on defense, that is. So this is a guy who I expect to get better as well. It's just going to be a matter of getting that 3-point shot more intact, and I think that, you've got a really nice duo there.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Sorry.
He was most out for most of the year last year, so he was coming off injury. That's why he didn't do that as well in stats.
That's right.
Triple J is awesome. If I remember right, he's not a good rebounder at all for a 4, which is his main glaring issue. Which he's good defensive guarding anything. He just can't pick up those rebounds. He's got to get bigger and more aggressive down there. I think will help with that. But he was off injury his third year, and his first year. They still had Marc Gasol, so he didn't get as much movement time. They play him on and off between power forward and center, and I think this year they're gonna push him more towards center, especially with Steven Adams as their main center when they want to open up the floor with Brandon Clark at the 4. I think that's gonna be a rotation they'll get after more often than not.
Yeah. Did you just say Marc Gasol was on the Grizzlies last year?
No, his rookie year.
Oh, his rookie year. Oh,
Yeah, he was there for half the season.
You're making a mistake there, silly. Yeah, you're right. No, I mean, in 23 minutes per game, he averaged 5.5 rebounds. I think if you're closer to that 30-minute mark, you're about 7 rebounds, which, yeah, we want that to be a little bit higher. But I think, like you said, it's just a matter of being more active. I like his potential as a defender, and he's faster, so he can guard on the perimeter. He's not going to be a total liability. Last year, yeah, he only played, 11 games, so it was the season before that gave you some promise, and hopefully into this next year, it's going to just build upon that.
Yeah, for sure.
So beyond Jaren Jackson, the Grizzlies, they made a really surprising, well, maybe not super surprising trade, but definitely a blockbuster move where they traded Jonas Valanciunas, and they traded a first round pick to move up 8 spots to get the 10th overall pick. And they also took on 2 pretty terrible contracts, especially in Eric Bledsoe and then in Steven Adams. But they also got a future first-round pick out of it. And so what that tells me is that they don't think that the core they have is quite ready to compete yet, and they want to build more future assets upon that to have within the next 2 or 3 years from now when they're ready to be more aggressive. Similar with their move trading away Grayson Allen, who was a pretty solid player for them, good defender, and shoots a 39% clip from 3. They traded him away for 2 second-round picks.
They just didn't want to pay him. Great move for the Bucks. Definitely got better this season.
Yeah, great move for the Bucks. Just give up 2 second-round picks to get a solid player like himself. But the Grizzlies, they made that move to get to the 10th overall, and they used that pick on Zaire Williams, a guy who had a disappointing season for college in terms of where his just trajectory seemed to be going. He played 20 games. He started in 14 of them, 28 minutes. So he played most of the games, and he only shot 37.5% from the field on 10 attempts and 29% from 3. And this was a guy in high school who seemed like he could make those shots with fairly fair ease. So the potential they still thought was there. They obviously thought someone else was going to take him, so they move up to 10 to grab him. He's a dude with a lot of promise in terms of his size as well. A 6'8" forward who can dribble the ball as well as he can. He can get up real high and get creative around the rim, so that's a guy who they think has more star potential than anybody else that was available there. Whether you want to argue that, it's up to you, but Zaire, Jaren Jackson, and John Morant, that's who they see as their big 3 going forward, better or worse.
Yeah, I didn't agree with their draft. I didn't think they were the right team to take on Zaire, especially as the project that he's seen as. Like they, not that the potential is not there, but he's not where they want to be. I don't think his timeline lines up with theirs. I thought Moses Moody was a shoo-in for this pick, just like a lot of people. He could come out and produce right away, but. Right. And they, we talked about it, that's who they were targeting with this trade, and that would have helped them out a lot. But I think they're bought into Bane. I think they really liked him last year, and I think that's who they want to start at shooting guard for now. But it's a really tough decision for them because at the same time they haven't had a core. Their core hasn't been around as long, so and especially with Triple J out, their second best young player, like. They haven't seen what they really have been a part of, just like the Timberwolves last season. Like their big 4 played 1 game, 2 games together, no games together. The 4 haven't played, but their big 3 played 4 games together. I forget.
Well, and regardless, it's a team who was able to make the playoffs last year, even with those injuries. And Desmond Bane is a guy I was going to get to. He's 23 and shot 43% from the 3 last year. A lot of promise, 9 points per game, and he had 4 threes per game shooting that 43%. So a lot of promise there on a guy coming right out of college, and it doesn't look like he's going to be a guy who's just a catch and shoot 3. He needs to get better at his ball handle so he doesn't turn over the ball, but in terms of being a pure shooter and defender, I think he's got a lot of promise. We've seen him. He's ripped as hell, and I think he can, if he can just put in the same effort he puts in on offense, he'll be totally fine. So he's a great player on their team. Zaire Williams, kind of getting back to him. He is 19 right now, and in his last summer league game, the 3-point and shooting was kind of the big question mark. He shot 4 of 6 from 3, so that's pretty nice. Obviously, like to see that. 3 of 6 from the free throw line isn't nice though. So, look to see him get a little bit better in those categories. 2 steals, 2 turnovers, so give and take with Zaire Williams. I think this guy, he's got a lot of potential just in terms of getting out in transition, and John Morant throwing big outlet passes out to him and getting dunks, and they realize that, that's going to help them out a lot. And you got your shooting with Desmond Bane. DeAndre Melton is a solid young player as well. He shot 41% from 3 last year on 3.5 attempts. So that's another guy who shoots well, and he had 9.1 points as well. So him and Desmond Bane, very similar in what they give the Grizzlies, both over 20 minutes a game. They like those guys both a lot, and they're both 22 years old. Another guy who you mentioned briefly as well, Brandon Clark, is a up-and-coming power forward. He's 24 years old, and he's really good on the inside in terms of just backing guys down in the post and, being able to do the dirty work. He had 56% shooting, and obviously not really a threat from the 3, but hopefully, he can add that at some point. Otherwise, you need good bigs who are limber like himself and can get into the paint and do the dirty work. 1 block per game, 1 steal per game. I like his potential on defense as well.
I really like Brandon Clark. I think his role fits better when they're running him at the 6th man, and that's what hurt his stats last year. He had to start, and that's not the normal role he's fit into because Triple J was out. So they, a lot of coaches, most coaches would just, even if they have their set 6th man, they would still put somebody in front of that 6th man so they can keep their role, because that's important. And so I kind of thought it was weird that they did move him up to starting, especially because he was doing so well in a 6-man role, and he was his rookie year. He's like, yeah, I'll be their 6th man. I thought he was a perfect fit.
Yeah, no, I think as this group matures more, that's going to be a guy who kind of becomes underrated, but everyone who's been watching the whole time knows he's a big reason for their success.
Oh, yeah.
One last guy I want to give a shout out to. He's out of that 24-year-old bracket, but he's such an important player for them. 25 years old is Dylan Brooks. 17 points per game last season. 34% from the 3, so it's not great yet, but I think that's getting better. And overall, his potential just as a bucket getter has been great. His mid-range scoring is one of the best in the league. As I've seen as a Timberwolves fan, he fucking kills us every time. So he's, I know very well who Dylan Brooks is. He shoots 81% from the free throw line. I know when he gets when he gets down close to the clutch time, you need guys in your starting lineup who can make shots. This is a guy who's going to be able to be counted on. 1 steal per game. He doesn't give you a whole lot in other areas, similar to like an Andrew Wiggins, where you've got 3 rebounds per game, 2 assists. It's not much in those categories, but he's a shooting guard, and he'll give you a lot of nice catch-and-shoot opportunities. He'll get himself open, and he'll create opportunities for himself.
Oh, yeah, he's a solid, sneaky player. Like, nobody knows that. Like, he's scoring 17 points a game, but nobody knows who Dylan Brooks is. That's pretty crazy. Like I didn't even pay attention to him that much, and I think I was watching a Timberwolves game, and I was like, who's this guy? I was like,
yeah,
who's this guy, and why is he killing us? It was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a solid shot.
It's
good piece.
Death taxes and Dylan Brooks destroying the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Inevitable.
Well, great. Well, those were our young cores, Memphis Grizzlies and Sacramento Kings, both West teams. So, sorry, East. Get better, maybe. I don't know. But, I'm liking what we're seeing with young talent in the league. Obviously, there's a lot of great young talent everywhere. I would have said the Boston Celtics potentially as the best young core just because they have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. but in terms of just overall, like 5 or 6 players on each team, just great talent building up that are really young. I think the Kings and the Grizzlies are looking really
I love an
nice.
underdog. So Celtics aren't an underdog. I don't care what you think.
No, they're not an underdog.
Yeah.
No, the Celtics will never be an underdog. As long as you're from the city of Boston, you're not an underdog.
Second best, most successful team in the NBA. So historically, so they'll never be an
Most
underdog.
spoiled city.
Just like the
No.
Lakers will never be. They weren't an underdog when they
I'll
won
never feel bad
8
for
games.
Lakers fans.
That one season, they still weren't an underdog.
No. Well, LeBron always wants to start the underdog mentality too. Like he put an Instagram post out there during this free agency that he since deleted like the same day, where he was saying, "Oh yeah, you don't think we hear you talk about how old we are? We'll keep that same energy when we're out there kicking ass," basically, And it was like, bro, don't be trying to make this underdog mentality. You guys just traded for, an 8-time All-Star who owns the triple-double record in the NBA. Shut up.
They have the best, arguably the second best big three. So, I don't know. They're definitely not an underdog.
No
I have them in the finals in my predictions. So, but speaking of predictions, I want to hear. So I based what our predictions for the seeding, how the conferences will end up 1 through 10 at the end of the 21-22 season. I made mine not off the best, not saying these are the best 10 teams. I said I figured this is how the seedings will fall. So just because the Nets aren't 1 doesn't mean I don't think they're the best team in the East. So that's how I organized mine. Let's start with the East. What are your top 10? How do you think the seed's going to fall?
Yeah, I organized mine similarly. I actually do think the Brooklyn Nets are going to be number 1 because I think they're going to get healthier. And regardless, they don't really need everybody to be healthy every game to be the best team in the NBA. So I have faith that they're going to have an awesome season. Guys like James Harden and Kevin Durant are maybe going to look to prove doubters a little bit more wrong just by having another great season and shutting people up. So that's my number 1 team. Do you want to go back and forth on this? You want me to
just run down, and we'll go through.
Okay. Yeah, so Nets, obviously number 1. 2, I got the defending champs, Milwaukee Bucks. I think in terms of players and acquisitions, it would have been nice to keep PJ Tucker, obviously. I understand why they couldn't just with the luxury tax bill. But getting Bobby Portis back on such a cheap deal is incredible. And they are able to bring back George Hill, who they never wanted to get rid of. And they're able to bring in Grayson Allen, who's going to be a great player, especially in the playoffs for them when they need a big-time ankle grab.
Rodney Hood and Yabusele, too.
And yes, Rodney Hood was a guy that I really liked when he was on the Blazers, and I like his shooting potential. Just a matter if he can stay healthy.
And Yabusele is more of a replacement for PJ Tucker. Not as good as a defender. Obviously, can't hit a corner 3, but I think he's a good piece.
Yeah. Regardless, Bobby Portis has that PJ Tucker mentality. I'm sure PJ Tucker rubbed off on a lot of these guys with his time being there, so I'm sure that they can give themselves a good chance to repeat this season. Number 3, I have the Miami Heat because they brought in Kyle Lowry and they brought in PJ Tucker, and this is a team that was in the championship, the finals, just 2 seasons ago. And I have good faith that they're going to have a really nice season this year. I think Jimmy Butler is going to he's going to have to perform well, at least in the regular season. I don't know how they're going to do in the playoffs. Obviously, he was horrible in the first round, but I like their odds this year. But I like their odds at having a good season.
Definitely.
Number 4, giving a nod to the Atlanta Hawks on this one. Love where they ended up at the end of the season. And I think after that, I've got to give them credit and assume that they're going to be in a good position to be a top 5 conference or top half player in the conference this year.
Okay.
Number 5, I've got the Philadelphia 76ers. So obviously a decent drop from 1 to 5, but this is banking on Ben Simmons no longer being on the team. And I think they're holding out for a Damian Lillard trade. I don't think it's going to come. I think they're in over their heads if they think they're going to get Damian Lillard this offseason, because by all accounts and everything that he's been saying, everything we're seeing, he plans on running it back with the Blazers at least one more year. So the Sixers are going to have to cave and take a Ben Simmons trade here, unless they want that, media shitstorm, because he doesn't want to be there. Doc Rivers doesn't want to be there. Joel Embiid doesn't want to be there. People don't want to be there, so don't make him be there. It will be a distraction if they make that happen. And regardless, once they do trade him away, I don't think they're going to get nearly the value they want to get. They're not going to get a ready-now player. They'll probably get some nice picks, but they're going to have to take a step back as a team this year.
Yeah, the latest report was that they've kind of held off trade talks with everyone because they're waiting on to see if Damian Lillard will become available. It did say that the main three teams that are leading their the trade discussions with the 76ers are the Spurs, Warriors, and the Timberwolves, actually. So those are the top three that they're in discussions with, but I assume have the best offers for them.
Yeah, I can't help but think the Timberwolves just being used by leverage in this, but that's just
I think the Warriors
skeptic
put
of
a better package.
If they end up wanting him, but the fit with Draymond Green is very questionable, and I hope they do it just so it implodes on them. To be honest,
we'll
see. But so number 5, I got the Philadelphia 76ers. Number 6, I got the Boston Celtics. This would be kind of a disappointing spot for them, I would think. They probably want to end up top 4. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they both had awesome seasons this last year. They should, in theory, be just as good, if not better. The Marcus Smart situation's up in the air. They're not sure if they want to keep him or not. I think they should. I mean, if they get rid of him, I don't think they're going to get anybody as good. But losing Fournier was kind of a bummer in terms of their scoring efforts. And they bring in Dennis Schroeder on a good deal. I like that. Obviously, he's become a meme for, turning down that big contract. But just in terms of basketball, they got a steal for a backup point guard. So they should be very excited about that. And they brought Enes Kanter back. So why not?
Oh, yeah.
Number 7, I've got the Chicago Bulls. So I do think they're going to squeak in the playoffs this year. They made enough moves that I loved. Lonzo Ball, I think, is going to be a better acquisition than DeMar DeRozan. But DeMar DeRozan is obviously an incredible player as well. And I think it's just a matter of if the fit with Levine is going to work out and if they can space the floor well enough, just because the shooting's not exactly where you want it to be with DeRozan. But, you get great players in when you have a chance like that. So I loved the move for them. They didn't have to give up, a ton to get him because they didn't have cap space. They had to give up the pick and Thad Young. It is what it is. DeMar DeRozan, I think, is going to definitely make a big difference for them, and the Bulls should be able to make it to the playoffs.
Definitely.
Outside of that, number 8, another big drop here is the New York Knicks, a team that I think outperformed themselves this last season. I do like Julius Randle, but he's a one-dimensional guy when it comes to offense, driving to the left and doing post-ups and fadeaways. But I'm just not sure he's going to get a whole lot better this year. But I do like him as a player. I think the Knicks are going to make a bigger leap when they can get a better player next to him. I see R.J. Barrett possibly taking a step back. I like Emmanuel Quigley. Derrick Rose is nice. They've got some good role players that they paid a lot of money to. So hopefully they can make the playoffs, but I think they're not going to get a 4 seed like they did this last year. That was maybe happenstance or whatever, and I just don't expect that to happen again. But rounding out 9 and 10 to potentially get to the play-in is the Charlotte Hornets and the Toronto Raptors. With these teams, there are a couple of up-and-coming teams that have some good young talent. Charlotte just drafted James Bouknight and Kai Jones, who are a couple of flashy players in their own different ways. And they add that to LaMelo Ball, who I love. I think he's going to keep getting better as well, and especially as a scorer. He's already amazing as a facilitator. If he can get that 3-point shot in place, I mean, the sky's the limit for that team. Miles Bridges, PJ Washington, a couple solid players as well. Speaking of which, Miles Bridges was just ordered to pay $200,000 a month to his now ex-wife, who secretly filed a divorce 2 weeks after giving birth to their child.
That's PJ.
Was that PJ? I thought that was Miles. My bad.
No, yeah, that's
Either way.
Can't
Messed
sleep
up.
on these NBA wives, man. They get crazy.
Yeah. Gold digger. But anyways, the Toronto Raptors, they drafted Scotty Barnes. I like his potential a lot as a defender. I know when you look at a team who just won a championship a couple seasons ago, you're wondering why not draft for fit. But, hey, they think Scotty Barnes is the best player overall at that point, especially in terms of his defensive abilities and, ways to get out in transition. I think it's a good pick, and I'm always going to trust Masai Ujiri over, what some armchair GMs like myself would say. Yeah. So.
Solid. Okay.
That's who I got for the East. So
actually, I agreed with 3 of those, and I'll show you. So, a lot of ours is very similar. So the first for regular season best number 1 seed, I have the Heat. I just think they're going to be most consistent. I think they have the most consistent defense, and they have a good enough offense where they can come out every night and get the most wins out of the East.
Damn, I thought you were going to dog me for the Heat. Yeah, you're real.
No, yeah, I think they're going to be great. I think they only had a month and a half off season last season. I think that really affected them. And yeah,
it's true.
They just didn't retain the players they needed to retain. But I think they're going to come back pretty well. Bucks, I have the same position. I think they could easily be the first, but they're going to be testing rotations, putting out new defensive strategies like they did this season. I think that's a good place for them to be. I think the Nets, just because I know they're going to rest the players, and I know Kevin Durant's a play for the playoff team. He doesn't care about the regular season, so I don't see him putting in that much effort into it. And I don't think they're going to be consistent enough on defense. Like, Blake was great in the playoffs defensively, but I just don't think they can come out and do that every night. I think their offense will be good. I think they'll still make a 3 seed. I wouldn't be surprised if they made 1st seed, but I have them at 3. Mm-hmm. Where we really differ is 4. I actually have the Knicks at 4. Their defense was great last season. They got Evan Fournier, Kemba Walker, and Mitchell Robinson had to exit halfway through the season, and he's back now. I think that's going to be a huge fit. I think they're opposite of Kevin Durant. They're a regular season. I don't think they'll make it out of the first round again, but I think this is. I think they'll make it to the 4th seed.
That'd be great for them. I did forget to mention that they signed Evan Fournier. That is a big acquisition for them to be able to add 17 points per game and some nice shooting. Definitely some potential there, but so I'm not hating on you putting them at 4. I put them at 8 because I'm not really a believer in the success they had last year. Obviously, defensively they were good, but I've seen what a Tom Thibodeau team is ran like, and he will go down to 8-man rotations at some point, and he will give 40 minutes to a player as good as Brandon Rush in his 36-year-old season. So things are going to blow up at some point. He's going to kill Derrick Rose, too. He might just put him out there and just say, "This is it, son. This is it. We're finally done. We're finally done." Bam! And then he's just going to blow his
Tom Thibodeau and his conspiracy to end Derrick Rose's career. It's still ongoing.
Yeah.
He's like, if anyone's going to tear those legs off, it's going to be me.
One last time, Derrick. Get over here.
But so 5, I have the Hawks. I think they're way better than the Knicks. I just think they're super inconsistent defensively, and they're gonna have to figure that out throughout the season. Also, they have injury prone. I wouldn't say injury prone players, but they are more prone to injury than the Knicks are. So I think that'll play a factor. 6, I have the 76ers, assuming Ben Simmons stays. Assuming he doesn't get traded. I took this as right now. I didn't account for any trades. So if Ben Simmons stays, it's going to be unspaced. Nobody's going to want to play with each other. I think they'll make a 6 seed. I don't think he will stay the whole season.
Either way.
But I think if it ends if it was right now, they're a 6 seed.
Either way, I had them at the 5. You got them at the 6. I think with or without Ben Simmons, they're going to take a step back. They were a faux 1 seed.
They were. Definitely. So 7, I think we agree on this one too. You said Bulls, I say Bulls. Same reasons, inconsistent. I don't think they can hold defense, not even inconsistent defense. I just don't think they can have a good defense. I think they'll do fine offensively, but they got a lot to figure out this season. I think next season will be their next season's the season where they're like, this is what we can do. But this season's a real test, especially with all their new players. And even I think they're still in the market for different players, especially a better power forward, a defensive one, depending upon what they do with Lauri Markkanen, who still has not signed at this moment.
Yeah, Lauri Markkanen doesn't want to be on that team. He's made it clear, and he said to the Finnish press that he wants a new start on a new team. But the Bulls are standing firm. They're saying, you got to trade us a first-round pick to make it happen. And Lauri Markkanen wants to get paid $15 million over 4 years. So I don't know what team's going to give up a first-round pick just to pay Lauri Markkanen $15 million a year. I hope it's not.
I think it could have been communicated better where they got to keep Thad Young and just threw Lauri Markkanen in that trade for DeRozan. I think that would have been awesome.
That would have been, that's what was rumored. I thought that's what was going to happen because it seemed like the Spurs maybe even a little interested in him.
Probably just vetoed it.
Then all of a sudden it was just
Lauri did, because on a sign-and trade the player has to agree.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it was kind of a bummer though, because Thad's a good player. Would have been nice to keep him around.
He's not a shot blocker, which
kind of feel bad.
Can help them. But he's a solid vet. He can play pretty good defense too. I think that would.
He's a good passer.
He's good all around. He's a He's
a 13-year vet. You know,
good Draymond Green type. Just can't really shoot threes. He can shoot threes worse than Draymond.
Yeah, he's like CVS Draymond Green.
So 8, I have the Celtics. I just don't think they're going to be that great this year. Who's their starting point guard? I mean, I assume Dennis Schroeder would be their starting point guard.
No, Marcus Smart.
Do you think he's going to be? I think. I guess it's hard to see. I don't trust Marcus Smart as the primary playmaker. I don't think that's. Well, it could just be Tatum too as a point forward, but I just don't think it's enough.
Yeah, I think you need Smart's defense out there. He's a way better player than people give him credit for, and he's definitely miles better than Dennis Schroeder, in my opinion.
Yeah, less hole. He fits his role better than Dennis Schroeder does, definitely. But I just don't think they're going to be that great. And then we agreed on 9 and 10 too, Hornets and Raptors. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I thought about putting the Pacers in at 10, but I just don't think they can make that. I just don't think they could beat out the Raptors. They're going to have a very iffy season, especially with dealing with Karras and Brogdon's injuries. Brogdon's coming off injury, and Karras, we'll see how he does with his blood clots.
Well, I think Karras is good at this point. I think they really like what they've got with him and Sabonis as really their best young players at this point. I really thought they were going to trade Miles Turner.
It can still happen.
And that hasn't happened yet.
They got time.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen before the season starts. I think rosters are pretty set until we have a player just randomly say he's going to request a trade.
Wasn't.
Yeah, I don't think Miles Turner.
Melo wasn't traded to OKC until a week before the season started. So it's possible. I think the Pacers want to trade him. I don't think they want him there because I think O'Shea Brissett really showed out, and they're like, "That's the guy we want as their center." He had some really valuable minutes at the end of the season. But great. So
yeah,
that was the East. What do you think? What do you think the West?
All right, well, let's get into the West.
Like?
All right, yeah, my top 10 West here. I've got number 1, the Denver Nuggets. Maybe a surprise, but with Jamal Murray coming back, you got MVP Nikola Jokic, and you've got Michael Porter Jr., who, in my opinion, maybe this is a hot take, he's already on his way to being the second best player on the Nuggets, better than Jamal Murray. You've got him. You've got maybe my boy Bo gonna get some playing time at some point. Will Barton is good. He's coming off injury. Hopefully, he's going to give you solid production this year. You've also got Jermichael Green is a good three-point shooter at the 4. You've also got Monte Morris off the bench. He's a nice backup point guard as well. And I feel like there's someone else I'm missing there. Aaron Gordon. Oh, man, Aaron Gordon. Yeah, no, and he fits the team really well. I loved that when they made that trade in terms of a defender and a guy who can just be your fourth scoring option. Really solid get. So that's, yeah. What'd you say? Oh, playmaking too. Yeah, yep. And he gets good offensive boards. He's a good hustler. Outside of the Denver Nuggets as my number 1, I've got the Golden State Warriors at number 2 with a bounce-back season from Klay Thompson. I think the three-point shooting is still going to be elite, and he's the best catch-and-shoot shooter of all time. So that I don't think is going to be affected a whole lot by his injury recovery. I think they're going to limit his minutes for a bit, not play him on back-to-backs, whatever else. But this is a team that got an MVP-like season out of Curry just last season. I think he's going to do it again because he's one of the greatest players of all time. He's the greatest shooter of all time. Draymond Green, he's going to have another great defensive year and hopefully help out facilitating-wise. I still think they should trade some of these young players to get a better win-now player, but Moses Moody is solid, and he can give them some good minutes now. I'm just worried what Kuminga's going to give you. I mean, that was a really interesting pick for them in the position that they're in.
Project.
But I mean, otherwise, I like where the Warriors are at. You got to believe that this is still a championship caliber team based on where they were at a couple of seasons ago, and they've only, brought in players since then. I'm not going to pretend like Andrew Wiggins is going to have a good season because, he's overrated. He got 17 points per game on poor shooting. He had some decent defense finally last year. An effort thing, Andrew. Something you never put in Minnesota. Could have played defense in Minnesota, but you wait till Golden State, so I'm not giving him a single cent of credit.
Fair enough.
But number 3, I got the Los Angeles Lakers, the retirement home that was somehow able to bring in some nice young players like Malik Monk and Chris Dunn as well. Or not Chris Nunn. Chris Nunn.
Close.
Kendrick
Nunn.
But Kendrick Nunn.
Totally different guy.
I was like, what the hell is his first name? All right, so they brought in Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk, Russell Westbrook, and they also bring in some other solid players that are like Carmelo, obviously ready to ring chase. Trevor Ariza ready to ring chase again. Was his fourth stint with the Lakers?
Third stint.
You get Dwight on his third stint.
Dwight's on his third too.
Jared Dudley's back. Alex Caruso's gone, but fuck him. They got Mac McClung and Talon Horn Tucker, baby. Yeah, I mean, we know the Lakers. They're going to be really good next year as long as they're healthy. That's the biggest if. If Anthony Davis gets hurt again, which he will get hurt again, but if it's a big-time injury...
It's just how close to the playoffs does he get hurt again. It's not when. It's not if, it's when. That's what's going to affect it.
Yeah. When and how severe.
For sure.
Is he going to show up fat again? Anyways. At 4, I got the Utah Jazz, so a drop from 1 to 4, but after their playoff series, blowing the 2-0 lead to the Los Angeles Clippers to lose 4-2. I know Donovan Mitchell was hurt for that, and, Rudy Gobert, they want to say he wasn't guarding well enough on the perimeter. Well, he's a center, I'm sorry. He's Rudy Gobert. But, But I love the addition of Rudy Gay. That was, I think, a really nice get for them. It seems like that might be a signal that he's going to be taking a lot of Joe Ingles minutes because they need better defense than what he's giving them. And the shooting's nice, but hey, we got Jordan Clarkson now, who's a 6th man of the year. We've got Bojan Bogdanovic, who was a great 3-point shooter last season as well.
Half, and they still were doing well, so...
struggled the first half. They're still doing well, but he came back and he, was the reason they won certain games as well.
Great piece.
Mike Conley, they're able to bring him back on a nice deal. Donovan Mitchell, obviously he's great. He's coming back from injury. He's going to, I think, be really nice this year, hopefully take another step. And hopefully he's with Utah for a while longer. While we're at it, we'll just hope that they enjoy this season and they have a good year. They're a really fun team to watch. Number 5, I've got the Phoenix Suns. So another drop here. Maybe I just don't believe in them as much as I should, but Devin Booker, he will have a good season. I love his trajectory as a player, and he's going to end up being the best shooting guard in the league at some point. Chris Paul, it's really just a matter of how severe his injury will be once he gets it. He's a guy who's always getting hurt, but obviously these last couple of years he's been amazing. He was first team All NBA this last season, and I'm not of the belief that he was their MVP. I don't think he was the best player on their team. I think Devin Booker was, but he was obviously awesome, and they needed that veteran leadership to help them get over the hump. So he was great to bring in. DeAndre Ayton going into his third year. I expect him to be more involved in pick and rolls, and what I loved so much from him last season was just how active he would be on both defense and offense. There would be so many times you'd see him get a block on one end, come to the other end, be a pick and roll, go in and get the rebound for the dunk, whatever. He does everything you want out of his center. He's a guy who can average potentially 18 and 10 someday, I feel, and I think that's a really nice guy to have in your squad.
Yeah, for sure.
As well on the Suns, Michael Bridges, obviously he's great. Campaign, we all know the Suns have a really good season. Looking at number 6, it's a team I'm not as excited about their offseason, but the Dallas Mavericks, they're going to be great just because they have Luka Doncic. I think they need to get rid of Kristaps Porzingis. I think it was necessary keeping Tim Hardaway Jr. as a priority. It just sucks that they can't do better than that, to be honest. But he is a nice player for who he is, great three-point shooter. And I like Maxi Kleba as well. I'm not sure what they're going to do with Dwight Powell. It seems like they might trade him. But they need another big wing in there. They need another big-time wing player. I hate the acquisition of Jason Kidd, but hopefully they can figure things out. I just think the Luka factor is going to get them a top 6 seed, is what it is. Number 7, the Minnesota Timberwolves, baby. Here we go! The Minnesota! I tell you what, my Minnesota Timberwolves, not my Minnesota, no, we're take the bias out of that. The Minnesota Timberwolves have D'Angelo Russell coming back. He's going to play hopefully more games this year than he did last season. Same with Karl Anthony Towns. The two of them have only played 4 or 5 games together total. Anthony Edwards is going to his sophomore season, and he's going to go from averaging 19 points per game to 23 points per game, and he's going to get that 3-point shot percentage up as well, I believe. This is a team that has some solid role players like Jaden McDaniels and Jalen Noel, who are young, but they're getting better. Naz Reid is the god, and he is also getting better. He shoots an awesome 3 for a big man. They just really need to figure out the 4 position. But Malik Beasley, when he's not waving his gun at Childs, he's waving his gun in the air and shooting a 3 into the bucket, because that man is a sharp shooter on and off the court, and I love him. And I would visit him in prison any day if he asked me to.
Good to know.
But number 8, I've got the Los Angeles Clippers. They're going to have Kawhi out for most of the year, it sounds like. I am a Paul George believer that he can drag the team to the playoffs, and they've got decent enough role players around him where I don't think it's, an impossible task. Really like Reggie Jackson. Really like, he's come out. Really like that
Mann.
Young guy, Terrence Mann. He knew what I was talking about as soon as a young guy. He looked really nice last season. They bring in Keon Johnson this year as a rookie. Hopefully that's a guy with some potential. Looks really athletic out of Tennessee.
Yeah, I love Keon. That was a great pick.
Yeah, so I like where the Clippers are at. It sucks that they got that injury, but Kawhi maybe will come back just in time for the playoffs, and they can make a surprise run. Number 9, I've got the Memphis Grizzlies finishing the same spot they did this last year. I think as long as guys are healthy, John Morant should be able to drag that team here. And I think with certain guys getting more minutes, like Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. coming back, that they should be a pretty solid team. It's just a really strong Western Conference, so I don't see them going top 8 in this scenario. But number 10 is a team that falls pretty far in my prediction here. The Portland Trail Blazers. They, are balancing a tightrope beam here with Damian Lillard, hoping that they can have a good season. But I don't think they've done enough this offseason to prove that they can do that. They were in the playoffs last year, and they got swept by a Nuggets team that didn't have Jamal Murray. And their response this year was fire Terry Stotts, which was necessary. But to bring in a man with no real coaching experience outside of 1 year as like a consultant, and he was, or an assistant coach for that 1 year, but he was one of the best point guards as my childhood watching. I won't deny that. But it doesn't mean he's going to be a great head coach. And he's coming into a delicate situation here. And they should have traded C.J. McCollum at this point, in my opinion. Hopefully they still do before the year for someone, maybe a better big. But I don't know. I don't know what they're going to be able to do there. Nurkic is fine. Like, he's okay. I'm not, like, huge on him. He's hurt all the time. Norman Powell is nice. They gave him a big contract, but they wanted to keep him around, and for good reason. He's a solid player, especially what he can give you defensively and a solid, 16, 17 points a game, a decent three-point shot. I liked Gary Trent Jr. as well, but I guess Portland didn't like him more than Norman Powell.
I think they just thought they had to pay him more. I guess. I mean, they're close to the same player.
Which ended up not being true.
I don't know.
They ended up paying Norman 5 out of 90. 5 years, $90 million, and Gary Trent got 3 years, 51.
I didn't get that. I mean, they're close to the same player in the way they play and the roles they fill. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird, but whatever. Teach their own, I guess. I like Alfredo more than Marinara. Some people like Marinara more than Alfredo. How it goes. I don't even know if I have that opinion, to be honest. I'm trying to spitball here. But anyways, let's hear it, man. What are your top 10?
I have the best team in the regular season, I think, will be the Lakers. I think they just have so much star power. How many Hall of Fame players are on this team? 5, 6? Probably 5. I think a solid 5.
Marc Gasol, Westbrook, 6, LeBron, Davis, and
Dwight,
who's
Melo?
the 5th? Oh, Dwight and Melo, I suppose.
I think they're going to pull it through. I think they're going to just pull that out. Not much said. We've talked about them a lot. I do think the Jazz will hit the 2nd seed. I think they have a great system. I think all the role players fit well. I think they can just run it back. They won't get a 1st seed, but they'll fall short at the 2nd, which they can't complain. I have the 3 as the Nuggets. If Murray comes back healthy right away, I'll have him at the 2. But if he has a rehab period, I think 3rd seed's where they're going to end up. The Suns I have at 4, and this is assuming Mikal Bridges takes the jump. I think he's the next person to take the jump on that team. He played really well in the playoffs, the finals. He was great, 3-point shooter, defender. He was awesome. I think DeAndre Ayton will take a jump. I'm hoping Mikal will take a bigger one. I think he will. I think Chris Paul will take a few steps back, but in his role, I think that's all right. I mean, he's an old man.
Regardless, Chris Paul will still get at least 14 points with 10 assists or close to 10 assists. So.
Yeah, he'll facilitate their offense just fine. And yeah, I agree with you. Devin Booker was definitely the best player on the Suns during the finals run. 5, I have the Warriors. I think it's going to take. They're not going to be able to jump up to the 2nd seed yet. I think it's going to take some time for all the young players to fit into their roles because they still have Wiseman, who was out a ton last year. Kuminga and Moody have to fit into what they want, and Klay Thompson's coming back, and I don't think his game will be that much affected, like you said. I don't think he's a best catch and shooter. I don't think you're going to see that much of a distance, but I think there is going to be a prep time for him.
There will be a prep time, and they won't play him on back-to-backs, and he'll have like minute restrictions for a bit. So they're going to play it really safe with him because, last season it sure looked like he was going to be ready to play the season, and then suddenly in a practice we find out he tears his Achilles.
6, I have the Clippers. Paul George, I don't know what, I just don't think he's a good fit next to Kawhi when he's playing with them. But when he's on his own, like in OKC, and he was an MVP candidate 2 years ago, I think he really excels. He can be a first option on a team, assuming like you get a really good second option. I just don't think he's a good fit next to Kawhi. All the role players they have, Terrence Mann's going to take a huge jump this year. I think they can pull out a 6th seed. The Mavs, assuming they still have Porzingis and he stays, will hit 7. I think he's going to be injured all year. They're not going to have enough production out of him, and they're going to have to go as their second option as Tim Hardaway Jr. I don't think he's a bad piece.
Yep.
Like you said, they can do better. Yep. They could do more.
He should be like their 4th scoring option. They need 2 guys that are not as good as Luka, but better than Tim Hardaway.
I think he could be your 3rd option if you have a better bench of guys who can actually score instead of the
Which
people.
They don't.
Yeah, the guys they have. Whatever. But 8, I have the Blazers, assuming Damian Lillard stays. I think he has enough star power to pull them out of the play-in tournament. Well, they're in the play-in tournament at 8, but I think he'll bring them to 8. He's a great player. He's had close to MVP season but he'll never get any votes because the media hates him. Oh, the media loves talking about him. They don't want to vote for him though. I think he's going to have a great year. I think McCollum's going to be there most of the year. Nurkic will clock in and out every week like he normally does. But we'll see how they do. Norman Powell's going to be fine.
Yeah, Nurkic is like that Simpsons meme where his dad walks in with the hat and he takes it off and puts it on the little stand. He picks it back up, does a little twirl, and walks right back out. He's like, "No, I'm here. No, I see you. I'm injured again. My bad. I am Nurkic. You should have known."
The one spot we agreed on was the Grizzlies at 9. I think same exact reasons. They need to do something more. I think they have to figure out what system. That's what they're doing. I think they have enough talent to bring them to 9. They just have to figure out the direction and how they want to build around Morant, and then they'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a team that could surprise us, and if they finished, top 6, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled it together. If John Morant was just like, "Hey, by the way, I'm really, really good, way better than you thought." And Jaren Jackson, it looks solid, and then Zaire Williams, if he's decent, I think they could maybe surprise us. But they are really young, really raw still, so probably not. 9's a good spot.
And then I have the Timberwolves at 10. I think somebody's going to get hurt, and it's going to affect their whole team. The Timberwolves have expressed that if one person gets hurt, the whole team falls apart.
They've shown that. Yeah,
I think that they're just one factor away from making out of the playoffs. I think they'll get to the play-in tournament, and we'll see how. I hope they do better. I'd like to see it before. I'd be love to prove
honestly,
me wrong.
The play-in would be fun.
Yeah,
the play-in would be great. I mean, honestly, anywhere in the top 10, I'd be happy with. The Wolves, that's where a lot of people seem to be predicting them is right on that 10th. But I hope they finish a little bit above that. I hope they outperform expectations. Just like you said, they're probably going to have an injury, but I hope after the war of attrition we had last year that's not the case.
That's the thing about the West though. It's so close. All these teams are so close to each other. They could really land anywhere.
That's really what changes things is the injuries and the guys making leaps. So it's trying to predict that can be difficult, but we did our best today trying to predict our top teams. I think we've talked a lot on these topics, so I think we're gonna wrap this one up and say, hey, strictly ball business, baby.